right, you're back with the Italian Sports Guys. Bada boom!
Bada bing!
And of course, as advertised, segment 2, we bring to you a little nostalgia from New Orleans sports scene. Of course, the New Orleans Catholic League is really part of the fabric of New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana, sports and football, of course, and we have a very special guest. If you've been around Louisiana high school sports, you know the name Pontiff, of course, and we have Al Pontiff tonight for a special guest. Kyle, give a little intro to what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, it's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, Craig, and Coach is not just a member of the greater New Orleans football family, he's actually a member of our family too, so it's got a little extra juice here, but someone that I've always looked up to, and we know the history of Coach Al Pontiff. Coached at Redemptorist High School, where he played, class of '59, went on to college, studied education, but even coached at Redemptorist while he was a student at LSU and at Nichols, and then went on to coach for his coach, Joe Galliano there. Joe Galliano ended up taking over the program at Rummel, and Coach Al soon followed him over there, and a guy who's seen it all from the playing days in the 1950s to a guy who coached into the 2000s. So it gives us great pleasure to introduce a guy who's a little bit of New Orleans football royalty, at least to us, Coach Al Pontiff. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about the Catholic League. It started in 1955. And in 1956, Redemptorist, which was the smallest co-ed school in the state, won the district title in 56 and again in 57. We played Jesuit in 1957 for the championship on a Sunday afternoon in November. They had beaten us during the regular season, and we were tied for first place, and we came back and played them on a Sunday evening with a huge crowd at City Park, and were fortunate to win 28-0. And we had a lot of great players and an incredible coach and wonderful support from the student body and the people of the Irish Channel. So it was quite a memorable time that I still cherish today.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Again, and we brought a lot of this on, is this picture you see right here. We can zoom on a little bit. It was not 957. The ones got chopped off. 1957 AD. The Redemptorist Rams won the historic Catholic League title. Coach, how have you seen things change through the years with high school football? And before you answer, remember, guys, Sunday afternoon at Tad Gormley in 1957 was before the NFL had a franchise in New Orleans, before games were televised around the clock. This was really a big deal. And how many people were at those games? What was an average crowd at a game that size?
I would say about 10,000.
Yeah.
Wednesday before, we played St. Aloysius in the playoff, and Jesuit and De La Salle played. Jesuit beat De La Salle, we beat St. Aloysius. It was a doubleheader on a Wednesday night at City Park. There were 19,000 people there. And then we came back that Sunday and played Jesuit. And we had two great running backs, Morris Powell and Wayne Juneau. Morris was one of the most elusive runners I've ever seen in the New Orleans area. And Wayne was an all-state player and great speed and a terrific athlete. We jumped on Jesuit 14-0 with a few minutes to go in the game. They had a bad punt on their first possession. We scored right away. And then I was fortunate. We hardly ever threw a pass. Hardly ever. But I threw a 4-yard pass to Morris Powell in the first quarter, I think it was. And he ran 88 yards with it.
So how far did you throw the ball?
I threw it 4 yards.
How far did he run?
88 yards.
How long is that in the record book?
Stats will say.
92-yard
right.
touchdown pass. Let me say this. That was a record that stood from that night in 1957 all the way until when? 1982, 83?
82. It lasted 25 years.
The longest pass in New Orleans football, high school football history.
Right, and it was a great time. This picture was taken after the game in the dressing room. And
well, I hope y'all weren't that happy and relaxed before the game. You can't tackle anybody with a smile that big on your face.
But one thing about then, we didn't have many players on the team. You know, I bet you we were lucky if we had 40. But today, they've got 90 to 100 and something on the team. We had two coaches.
Yeah.
And now there are 7 or 8 coaches on the varsity staff, you know. And the players are bigger, stronger, and faster than we were then. No weightlifting, no off-season program. Most of the guys play both ways. except for me. I played only on
You're
offense.
the quarterback. They didn't want you to
Especially
throwing 92-yard touchdown passes
There you
every
go.
other week.
That's
Coach didn't want
correct.
you to get hurt.
Can't get
That's
hurt.
correct.
That's right.
And I never did run the ball because we had great running backs. I was smart. Give it to them. Let them run.
Kind of like Garrett Sasser in his day, afraid to get hit.
Brother Martin, right.
Afraid to
I
get
don't
hit
want to
like
be hit.
Garrett.
I don't have the ball. Tackle those guys. But we were a well-coached team, and we had a lot of success, and we had wonderful coaches. Another thing, players played more than one sport, which they don't do today.
Yeah,
Most of them play one sport, football, or if it's a baseball player, just plays baseball. In those days, guys played 2 or 3 sports.
Yeah.
I was in baseball and football. A lot of them played baseball, football, and basketball.
Right.
And it was a wonderful time. I cherish these days, and I can think about them like it was yesterday. So
sure.
it was a beautiful time. Now, getting back to football then and football now.
Yes, sir.
We ran 2 tight ends with a wing back to the right or a wing back to the left. Real tight.
So
Tight
one wing back,
formation.
either or.
Yeah,
Or 2 wings.
right or left.
Right or
Yes.
left.
2 tight ends. Never had a split end. Never had a wide out. We hardly ever threw a pass. Today they're spread out all over the field.
Sure.
They don't run the football hardly at all anymore. We never threw the ball at all back then.
Except for the 92-yarder. That's still the
right.
record.
That's right.
Exceptions, that's
But
right.
it's changed a lot.
Should have
you
threw
know,
him more,
and-
Coach. Every time you chunk it, it goes for 92. Go ahead.
But the players are well coached. They work hard today. I had the privilege of coaching 10 years at Redemptorist, 12 years at Rummel, and 7 years at Brother Martin. And it was a fantastic years, 30-something years of my life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And it's great to see these guys today that grew up to be fine young men and good members of society. So it was quite a good time for me. And I cherish every moment,
Yeah, well, Coach, you touched upon that. I mean, not only did you play back in the day, but you also, I guess, coached a number of your decades really in the league. What is it like when you watch, again, the spectacle that the Catholic League sports and games have become when you see these guys playing in the dome for these big crowds? It must be a great source of pride for you to see where this league has become.
It certainly is. Actually, in 1975, when I was coaching at Rummel, we played the first game in the dome against East Jefferson in a playoff. So that was a big thrill. And
Coach, who won that game?
Rummel won.
Yeah,
the
no,
game.
just making sure.
Now, speaking of Rummel and Brother Martin,
Yeah.
they play Friday night, tomorrow night.
They did. Second time this season. They played first time. They already played once this year,
Yes,
right?
they did.
Right.
Yes, they did.
And this is in the playoffs.
Right. What was the score of
And
the first game?
I'm
30 zip, huh?
30 nothing Rummel?
right. I'm caught between 2 lovers.
Not in this house, you're not. Coach.
Yeah, I coached at Rummel and I coached at Brother Martin. I had fantastic players at both places and great memories from both schools.
Yeah.
So I was privileged to be both places. So I'm going to listen to the game if it's not on television, or I'm going to watch it if it is, and root for both teams.
All right. Well, that's good because I'll be rooting for just one of them. But Coach, you were at Rummel all those years, and I was fortunate enough to play in that program, and it's, high school football here, like we're talking about now, it just still means so much to all of us. I wish you'd have stuck around. I wish it would have worked out. Would they'd have been smart enough to keep you around for another couple of years, because I'd have killed to play for you. I really would. It would have meant a lot to me, and hopefully I would have made you proud. But we never got that chance, and things happen the way they do. But so going back to a question I really have, you guys ran that single wing offense. That's what that was called.
No wing T.
It was
it was a wing team.
At Redemptorist,
Yeah,
it was a single wing.
It wasn't a single wing, but it was a wing formation.
Okay,
yes.
and then you've seen things come full circle.
Right.
You've called more plays in the history of New Orleans, I bet you, than any offensive coordinator anywhere. What is so different about it today, or is it really not that different at all?
Well, it's a lot different because the teams are spread out a lot, and it looks like everybody goes out for a pass. There's hardly any running. The football, if I had my way, I think the perfect game is no passes. Just run the ball, just run the ball. John David Crow won the Heisman Trophy at Texas A&M under Bear Bryant. He went on to be a great pro player and a great athlete and a coach, and he was coaching in NFL. And he quit coaching. They said, "Why did you quit coaching?" He said, "Because the backs run out of bounds."
Yeah.
You know, so I said they didn't do that in his day, and they didn't do that when I was playing. You know, they ran into.
Well, you find yourself on the bench if you did that
That's
when
correct.
I was playing. I remember.
But it's changed a lot, and the athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster, and they're better coached.
And they're a lot richer.
And they go
they're a lot
one way.
richer now too.
Yeah, they have trainers
Right.
and dietitians and all this, but they have individualized instructions. You know, when we played, it was only 2 coaches. You know?
Sure.
And the guys played both ways, so you know. Now you get one position and you work on that the whole year.
Right.
You know, so that's a big factor. It is.
Yeah.
And.
Well, Coach, you touched upon, before, a lot of these guys play high school sports and never go on to play anywhere beyond that. So, again, the impact as you as a coach and other coaches is not so much just on the field, but the young men that you develop them into. So talk a little bit about how this game of sports, or football in particular, really sets up folks for success down the road.
Well, they learn about hard work, about teamwork, about being responsible and reliable and counting on each other and sacrificing. So all this pays off and gives dividends down the road, and they learn from failure as well as from success. So they move on and they become good men. And I also, at Redemptorist, I had girls, I had women for 10 years, in the classroom. And it's great to see these men and these women grow up to be fine young people that are productive, that are good fathers and husbands and brothers and sons and citizens, know.
Well, the greatest neighborhood in the
great.
history of New Orleans, the Irish Channel, right?
It was a wonderful place to grow up in, There was a lot of love, and everybody cared about each other. So I would not have traded those times for anything. They were a blessing,
Well, as on a Thanksgiving Day, there's no better message to leave you with than the foundational elements of sports, what they can provide. And again, if you've been around high school sports in this city for the last 50 years, you've run across this man and his family, and you have a lot to be thankful for, including the influence he had on your families out there. So great to have him on our show.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach, too. And I had the pleasure of, talked about missing out with the opportunity to play for you, but I had the pleasure of playing baseball for your brother on a state championship and nationally ranked team, and he was the juice behind all of it. He was an assistant coach, but the head coach would tell everybody, the magic has returned to Rummel baseball because of Wally Pontiff. That remains that special to me to this day. So,
well, thank you. And while I'm here, the Wally Pontiff Classic is March 28th, but it's going to be played at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge at the the box.
Yeah,
yes.
so that's the baseball tournament every year. Say again the dates and the place.
March 28th.
March 28th, 2020.
Right, playing Tulane.
Playing Tulane at Alex Box. Wow.
Right.
So get your tickets and get up on the Baton Rouge.
Get over there, you hear?
Get over there, yeah.
So,
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Very special, nostalgic edition of the Italian Sports Guys. We out.
the Italian Sports Guy.
Bada boom.
Bada bing.
Can we leave the gun?